a major video I'm gonna do, and it's explosive. It's raw, it's real, it's what Canada is, what Canada has always been. And I was reminded of that this morning up early working on my truck, and a friend of mine going through it, which is traditional here in Canada. It's a mass amount of programming, brainwashing of the worst evil in the world today. A lot of people don't know that the constitutional acts of Canada, the Indian Act of Canada, still alive and well today, enacted, as are the constitutional acts of Canada. Very little has changed. People refuse to read these multi-textual documents that give vast powers of a regime over a very subjugated people. Experiment done by the British Empire, a real human travesty and evil. Now, is this evil explosive and visual out to the world today? No. It's at the minimal levels that this system can go on and hide under the radar. And I try to highlight it all the time, and sometimes you get to a point where I'm at right now this week with a lot, and I see it over and over. I was listening to the radio here in Edmonton, Alberta. Before I get into this explosive video, folks, bear with me. I'm listening to a radio station, FM, in Edmonton, Alberta, 100.2.3. And it's easy rock, it's rock and roll, and I don't know how popular of a station it is. It's on one of my stations locally. I've listened to it for years. But the commentator goes, you know what, everybody? In the name of Charlie Kirk and everything he's witnessing in protest today, he goes, I'm going to do something that may cost my job too. And you talk about free speech. He plays of music from a guy who sent him a protest song, and he played it in Edmonton on mass immigration, the results of what the Canadian government's doing under law against all of us, the people of Canada, in the face of normalcy in Edmonton, Alberta, where it's record unemployment. We're taking in mass immigration, people who don't speak English very well, if at all. No value or system of Canada in place. And I was reminded by a good friend of mine from Eastern Canada on this and why I'm going to do this video. And it's no more tiptoeing for me through the tulips, so to speak. I look at it that if I'm ripped off social media again, be that as it may, if that happens, I don't care. This is a truth, and I'm not going to mince words, try to appease people anymore. I'm going to give it to you straight. The constitutional acts of Canada, how all Canadians are codified in class structure, it's third class for a vast majority of Canadians. What does that translate into history? This is subjugation of a class of subjects, third class, that I call Kanakas. When I say that, that's what your government, the crown, the politicians, views you all as legally, which can only be found and equated to one reality in American history called the segregated niggas. When I say that with that emotion, that feeling, that evil, that comes forward, and I apologize to Americans to do that. But what that represented in American history is and has always been a reality for all class subjects of the third class. This is all blacks, all East Indians, all Asians, all white people, Caucasians from everywhere in the world. It does not matter. It does not matter your religion, your beliefs. It does not matter. By Canadian law, by the Canadian designed system. All are equally Kanakas, the politicians niggas. How America, in their history, an old history that goes back from the 60s to the 70s, where they wrote that wrong for African Americans, and they are not in that state today. They're actually sitting in a better state than the Kanakas, known as Canadians, a mass majority of you, a clear majority that they step on, press down, and equate to the segregated niggas. That's the truth. I call it Kanakas, because that's how you're legally defined in this country. They keep you down. You're never going to get ahead. You're always going to be beholden to them. The system's rigged against you because you're not equal. You're a subclass of people. But at least you're people. Not a great station of people, but you're people. Now that brings me to the second point I want to make about Canada in absolute legal truth. I've been giving legal truths this whole time. This is the truth of the Constitutional Acts of Canada for all Canadians who fall in third class. These are people who are not crown sworn. You work primary sector, service sector. You're not beholden to government. You didn't swear an oath of allegiance to government. You were born bonded to it. Bonded like property, like cattle, aka a slave or a segregated person. A Kanaka, known in American history in a point of time as a segregated nigga. That's what we are. And as soon as all races of Canadians, all religions of Canadians get this through their pea brain, the better off we're all going to be, because we can address it united. The Crown loves to segregate everybody in their religions, everyone in their ethnicities, everyone in their races, and pit you against each other while they crush you down as chattel, as property, take away more of your rights that they had given to you as the Lord thy God. Really, as they're codified. That is the absolute truth forever and a day of the Constitutional Acts of Canada, 1867 till today. It has never changed. You can go through all those documents. You see what's repealed, what's replaced, and what isn't. And I can promise you that legal truth remains ever present and dominant over all of us, regardless of race. You're all equally shit. You're all equally shit in the third class, which is a vast majority. It's why property is unattainable for so many generations now of Canadians, which is a mass amount of the growing population of Canada. Again, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, beliefs, none of it matters in the eyes of the divine elite crown that's codified to be your vast superior, where you are their chattel, their property. This is undeniable legal truth of your highest laws of the land. You read it, you learn it, you know it. No different than America's history of the segregated niggas. And in that emotion, I hope that finds you all well, that you're all equally segregated, equally devalued as that. Part 2, Indian Act of Canada, 1876 till today. Not repealed, not changed. You've got a group of people underneath even that of what would be the segregated niggas. There's a worse level to be. That's very old in the world, created and crafted first and foremost in the experiment called Canada. The first thing you got was the Indian Act, another experiment of dehumanization for one race of people only. That's all Canadian First Peoples, the red race, native to Canada, the First Peoples of Canada. In America, they're known as American Indians. Not to be confused, they haven't had an Indian Act for many, many decades, more than 100 years, in fact. And more than 100 years, they have been made American equal citizens. American Indian citizens equal to American citizens. They don't have any of the dehumanization of an Indian Act over any of those peoples, from the 49th parallel largely down, and of course what's chopped out of Eastern Canada below that. All those people do not exist in any legal definition like they do in Canada. What have we seen in the world that matches the legal writing in scripture and enforcement of the Indian Act 1876 till 2025? It's a dehumanization of peoples, meaning worse than a segregated nigger, worse than a subjugated Kanaka. A third-class Canadian is the non-human being, aboriginal. They've created lots of titles from the Indian Act. Bullshit narratives. Those people have been dehumanized, removed from society, isolated on reserves, removed from all forms of government, not allowed to govern themselves, beholden only to the federal government in the very limited powers from the federal government. Where have we seen this model grow and manifest in the world? Well, first seen with Nazi Germany's 1933 Enabling Act over the savage Jews. Savage Indian Act. Then it was the Germans over what they would make the savage Jews. Dehumanized people. In fact, went on to do a mass genocide on those people because they weren't made human by law. In a law where there was the fascist idea that all Germans are superior, all savage Jews are non-humans to be extinguished. Just like the Indian Act 1876 in force today in Canada. The longest running first creation of its kind. Then there was Africa apartheid. Coming out of Nazi Germany, they raised that legislation up and created the savage nigger. Worse than a slave would be the savage, segregated nigger that they would go to exterminate, liquidate, isolate from society, segregate, dehumanize, make everybody feel better. Exactly like the Indian Act of Canada in all its legal definitions and terms and design. That went on to 1994, 48 years. Hardly comparison to the Indian Act 1876 till today. Then we go on to Israel, of all nations, that has legislated this against the Palestinian people in their 10 basic law of the superior Jew and the savage Palestinian. That there's a separate superior race of people known as the Israeli, and then there's the savage Palestinian. Crafted, created to be exclusively like Canada's Indian Act 1876 till 2025. Folks, there's only one dehumanized group of people in Canada. When I say that dehumanized, we're not talking segregation in class or human value. We're talking about dehumanization. That's the First Peoples. For all people of African descent that come to Canada playing on the race cards from America, that's not Canadian history. And I have to expose this because when you look at the statistics that follows America, African Americans in history, jail time, youth and jail time in the system, social services. When you go to Canada, that doesn't exist. Do you know what does exist? Those numbers multiplied by a great amount more for all the First Peoples of Canada. They fill that rationale those statistics and then some, many times more. In fact, the amount of First Peoples in Canada, children in jail, murdered, abused, missing, all of it, is off the charts compared to any African American truth of the United States per person per capita. Canada's way off the charts, has been way off the charts for an extremely long time. These numbers are not the same in the United States for the American Indian citizens. Not even remotely close to the same. It's off the charts in Canada. And your government thinks this is great. They think that everything in the system that they've created is great. Nothing to see here. We're running a great, stable society where we have subclasses of segregated peoples. Kanakas, niggas, according to American history of segregated African Americans, a long time ago, many decades removed, always the case for Canada. And then you have the savage human beings, the dehumanized peoples, who don't have any legal definition of human being and are not allowed their own self-government. They must be ruled by an iron fist by the government, and all ideas of any civil rights, human rights are removed from them entirely. They're subject to the government, absolutely. That's the reserve status Indian Act person in Canada. Doesn't matter if you're Métis, Inuit, numbered, named, every single institution, ICC, Intercircumferential Polar Council in Canada, is not the same as Russia's or USA's, and the statistics don't even match. Why? Because Canada embodies that only after binding the Indian Act. You will find this for Métis, you'll find it for numbered, named, unceded, does not matter. Everyone in their systems are derived from the Indian Act. The idea that you're not a human being, you're not to be treated in a human manner. Human and civil rights do not belong to you. And no one says nothing about that. Not Canadians, not the world stage. Canada's been very good at keeping their secrets down here. Well, we're way high in all these areas and statistics, but not enough to trigger an alert in the world. We don't ever let it escalate. We've got the media covered. We keep it down. We suppress it all. Canadians are no wiser. First Peoples know it, but have given up a long, long time ago. Get along and go along, because it's never going to change. And even though the mass amounts of fatal truth in statistics are ever present, jail terms it clearly, this is an expensive system, an evil system that statistically shows you that the Canadian model over the First Peoples is nothing short of inhumane and dehumanizing, and those peoples will never get out from under the truth of it until we as a nation, the people, all come together and address it, like the evolution of the United States. Whether people want to admit that or not, this video is truthful, credible, real, deadly accurate, and I won't be tiptoeing through the tulips anymore. These truths can't be argued. They can't be denied. There's a clear history and a reality at hand. And just because Canada isn't off the charts on the markers of vast human rights atrocities because they stay just below the radar doesn't make it right. And just because you have a mass institutionalized population that the Crown laughs as they keep everybody divided amongst each other while they reap in all the benefits doesn't make it right, or it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try our hardest to change it as the peoples and share these messages. Knowing the legal truth and design of what is Canada and what it'll always be and what it'll never be is free, fair, equal, or of a human rights-based approach to a society. That will never be Canada ever. And it will only get worse, as I think a lot of people are seeing today in mass immigration replacement. Birth rates can't keep up anymore because the cost of living is atrocious for a vast amount of those in the third class, which is a clear majority. You've never had so many wealthy elites pop up who never created nothing but just lie, cheat, and steal. They're not good in their industries. They never were. It's all about insider trading, fraud, criminal action of the highest immoral character. You're watching our financial system. USA and their financial districts are bouncing our Canadian chartered banks out like a plague. They're getting rid of it. It's like getting vaccination for all that in America. They're going through it, and they're cleaning out the disease known as Canada. And what's sad is Canadians from all walks, races, ethnicities, religions still can't figure this out. That at the end of the day, you read the constitutional acts of Canada, you realize what you are, regardless of race, religion, ethnicity, that you're a substandard human being, a third-class citizen, not even a second class. Those who kiss ass, throws many of their brethren under the bus, like that song that was played in Edmonton that probably cost that radio DJ his job today, went through and explained. And I was shocked to hear that in all cities of Edmonton, Alberta. And I applaud that DJ for doing that. We'll see what happens to him. I bet you he's toast. Crown won't like that. But that was awesome. That was awesome. And it also highlights what people need to know, that it's the legal system of Canada created by these divine elites to do this to us. And they're only getting worse. They're only getting more radical and more evil as time goes on. And as long as Canadians remain divided, as long as we're fighting amongst each other on race, religion, ethnicity, values, and not coming together to realize we're the ones who are going down the toilet, this country's never going to change. And that's what we all have to come together to realize. And if we don't, and we don't come together to realize that there's a whole vast amount of one peoples, the First Peoples, who've been dehumanized all along, and we need to course correct that, I don't know what to tell you. And if you think it's not possible, the nation within the nation, that's exactly what America is. I was laughed at that a few years ago. I was called cockamamie and stupid. But that is exactly what the American system is and what it's aspiring to be each and every day over the last 133 years. And people don't want to give America credit for that. The American people are getting there. They're more than an experiment. They're a successful evolution, a political evolution over time, and they work it out. Whereas Canada just keeps going down the toilet. Wealthy few go up, and the vast majority go down. And it's at a point now where when do people wake up and address this? Anyhow, that's my rant this morning. A very powerful video, very powerful words that I hope people take to heart and share. I know it's scary. I know they will take that and, oh, look, he's racist. He's this, he's that. No, it's a truth of the legal design of what Canada is, and the best way to explain it at the grassroots level for everybody. For everybody. God bless. That's my video. Share. Have the courage to do that. Bye now.